How's it going? My name is Brent from Encore, PPF and Tint, and today we are going to install some paint protection film on the front headlights of this Subaru Forester. Kind of got myself out of frame there. But we're going to go ahead and install a kit on this headlight here. It was cut out by Core and it fits amazing. So let's get this on there. So the first thing that I went ahead and did was wiped all of this area down. Powering down. All right, got a fresh battery. All right, so the first thing I went ahead and did is wiped everything down to make sure that we're not going to get any contamination underneath the material. And then I went ahead and took straight rubbing alcohol, which is what we use is 70% rubbing alcohol, and I wiped down the entire headlight to make sure that there's no waxes on there or anything, any type of debris. We are already going to have a little bit of a challenge with headlights like this because this vehicle does have a few miles on it, so it's got tiny little chips and imperfections now in the headlight, and what that's going to do is that's an imperfect surface. So instead of going on a nice smooth surface, we're actually going on more of like a rigid or like a rippled surface, and that creates little air gaps on the edges where the material will very easily pop up. That's a problem that you'll notice also on the paint if you're doing a vehicle that's got some extra miles on it already before you do paint protection film. But let's go ahead and get this piece on here and show you how this goes. All right, so like I said, I already wiped this down with the rubbing alcohol, so we're just going to go ahead and mist that down with the soap solution or slip solution. Then we'll grab my pattern here. I mean, you're going to be impressed anyway by this kit. This kit fits really, really good. It's actually fairly impressive. Kits these days are just getting really good. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and do then is I'm going to start all in this area here and get all this lined up really well and then tack down. So let's do that. Okay, and you can see down here, this corner is rounded and then shoots up that way. And what that's for is that it's going to go right down on the corner of the headlight there. And then the rest of this is going to wrap over that edge. And then we're going to go ahead and lay all this on there nice and flat because there's no stretching in this area. And then we're going to make sure that we've got nice clean edges everywhere and we're not hanging over, because we don't want to create an issue by letting something hang over. We have to go back and trim it. We're just creating extra work for ourselves. So avoid that whenever possible. All right, go ahead and squeegee this out. So we're just squeegeeing out the area where we put the tack solution, and then we'll go ahead and take this up. And it actually stops right at that recess before it starts to climb back up. It goes in and makes a bend upward, and you're never going to be able to get material on that whole thing. So this tiny little lip here isn't going to have paint protection film on it because you're not going to be able to get it down into that recess and have it turn up without it end up getting air and stuff in there. So it ends right there, which is a great place for it to end, the same place it would end if I was to cut this by hand. All right, now we'll go ahead and we'll get some tack back here. Let's get you in a little bit closer here. All right, so I'm going to put some tack back here, and then we're going to stretch all the way to there. Now we did let this sit for just a moment, so I'm going to just go ahead and squeegee out a little bit, like an extra inch or so, and that kind of gives us a new area to stretch from. And we'll go ahead and let that tack up for just a few seconds here. Now we're going to stretch this into place. Go ahead and get some mist on there. You can also leave that really dry until you put your hand on it. So put your hand on it and then mist over the top of your hand. And that'll ensure that your hand is on a nice dry spot in the material, which will give you a ton of extra grip on the material. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and line this up. And what we're going to try and do is get these fingers here real minor, stretch them out as much as possible. And then we're just going to make sure that we're not going over the edge, but that we're right up to it. And you can see, I don't know, you probably can't see that, but we've got about almost 1/4 of an inch there where we need to pull down to get this material lined up with the bottom correctly. And so because I had my hand on that, and because there's some tack in here, it stayed in place after I removed my hand. If yours isn't doing that, then you'll want to get this down, squeegeed out before you remove your hand. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of get out the stuff that was where we put the tack solution, and then we'll go ahead and push this down. And you could see there that I added a little bit more stretch to it because we had some fingers. So I added just a tiny bit more stretch to this very corner and pushed that down. I should have mentioned that while I was doing it. Now we want to double check this here again, and it looks like it did stay down to where I pulled it down to, and then we're going to bring this stuff from the areas that are stuck down in towards the middle. Great, and then we'll take this part down, and then we'll take this part up. And you can see I flipped my squeegee around there. And the reason for that is because we're going to be going up into this recess, and that's going to be really hard to make sure that we get a good squeegee all the way to the edge of the material if it's this way, because we're going to be bumping into the hood and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get some tack on this edge. And I'll go all the way around, and then we've got some fingers down here that we need to get a little bit of tack in those. And then let's get some tack in this part here as well, and then we'll get back around to that afterwards. All right, so let's get this all squeegee back out. Now there's some tack in there. Okay, it's all looking really good. We do have a finger that continually wants to pop up there, but all we're gonna need to do for that guy is just get rid of that moisture on the edge, and then that should keep that guy down. And then I'll do a slide chomp there on that edge to make sure it's good and pushed down and dried out. And then let's take care of this down here now. I'm basically just squeegeeing this out over that edge, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom here, and once the tip of the squeegee is off of the headlight, I'm going to push onto that corner of the headlight. And what that's going to do is that's going to make that adhesive on the edge tack right now, because it's getting that extra pressure. Okay, great. That's all stayed down, and then you see there that I went right over that afterwards and dried that edge out. And again, drying the edge out will just help the material not pop back up so often. You know, if you have a lot of fingers, it might still pop up, but you're going to find that it'll be a lot more or less frequent if you go ahead and dry that edge out. Terrific. All right, again, I'm just going to reapply some tack in there, and then we're going to go ahead and roll this over this edge and take this up. So we're just basically doing a slide chomp, or we're chomping this down. You can see it continues to pop up. I can't really get super great pressure way back in there. Oh, there we go. I was able to get it by going a little bit more at this angle instead of doing like this. Make sure that this very edge was staying on the material all the way back. And then let's go ahead and dry this out now, all the way back in there. And then we are coming up just a tiny bit here on this corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and dry that out and hold that down for a second. I'm putting some decent pressure on it, enough that my hand's shaking a little bit there. And that'll help that stay down. And then at the end, we're going to be doing a heat sealing process, and that'll make sure that it doesn't pop back up at all. Okay, so now for the most difficult area of this headlight. All right, so we're gonna make sure, let's get this down first, this top part. I'm hanging over just the tiniest bit on this edge, which won't be an issue. We just want to make sure and get that down before we put the next part down. Okay, so I put some tack in there, and then I went over it and dried it out. It is not staying down. That's okay. Oh, don't, it was dry. I shouldn't have put my squeegee on there dry. I don't know what I was thinking there. Okay, so I went in and put some more tack in there, squeegeed that out, and then went over it with my finger, and then now I'm drying that edge out. And it's not allowing the little edge that's curling to stay down, but we're not really going to worry about that for now. We'll get that with the heat sealing process. All right, so let's get some tack for this next part here. And what I'm going to do is put just a little bit of tension on it. And then we're going to want this top edge to stay nice and lined up with the headlight. So I'm going to go to about there. And we're going to leave this part hanging up for now. And we're just trying to get down this section and then out here towards the front. And I can see that I'm kind of drifting up this direction. So I'm going to pull that back up and I'm going to realign this part like that. And then let's see, can I just hold that down for now? Grab my squeegee and then we will squeegee this out here. So I'm just coming down with it. I'm making sure to get into that recess really good. Multiple times, making sure that I've got all the moisture out in that recess. It's really easy in those corners like that to leave slip or tack solution behind in there. So this was a pretty decent bear on the other side as well. It just didn't want to stay down in there. So that's some great coverage. I mean, that's a really quite impressive coverage with the final product there, but it is going to fight us in this corner. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try something, which is just putting some direct 70% rubbing alcohol on there, and then I'm gonna squeegee back into there, and that did not work at all. Okay, the problem with you, don't do that, okay? Every once in a while that'll work, but more often than not, it, what they call, burns the adhesive and kind of causes it to lose its tackiness, and then you need to rinse it out with water. But I already had lost my tackiness, so I wasn't super concerned about that. Every once in a while that trick will work out. Okay. So I'm just gonna take this right back into that corner, and then I'm gonna just basically do a swipe and hold right into that corner and see if I can get this stuff to stay down. And while that's sitting there doing that, I've got, you know, some solution or some air pockets up in this top part now. So I'll go ahead and start kind of squeegeeing those out and just continue to work while I'm waiting for this part to stay stuck down. So I've got all the water out of that recess there again and the air. Yeah, it just doesn't want to stay down. So at this point here, there's a couple things I would do. One, I would just put a slit in it and eliminate this problem. Or two, we can try and make it work by getting all of the slip solution and everything out of there. Because look at me, even over here, it doesn't want to stay down that well. This is going to be really tough to get this to stick, and it's just going to take quite a bit of time potentially. But now that we got that dried out, let's see how helpful that is. I can feel that it's already wanting to tack, so that part's good. Okay, so I've got it off this part and down rounded in, and then we're going to go ahead and squeegee this part all the way to that recess. And I'm going to take my other squeegee here and get this to stay stuck down. All right, still doesn't want to do it. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and put a relief cut in this because that is not working out. And the problem we're going to have is that if I let this customer leave, that part's going to pop up. So, and she's here waiting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull this up, and I'm going to tear along my cut line there. Okay, and let's go ahead and squeegee this part down, which is great, and then I'm going to go ahead and put then this part down. Okay, there. Now we're not going to have to worry about that coming back up, because it was almost guaranteed it's going to pop back up. So I mean, that's some really cool coverage they were trying to get. I just don't know. It happened on both sides where it's just not staying stuck down. It could be because this headlight has a few miles on it already, so it's got some chips and imperfections in some of these little edges, or all of the headlight, and that's just not making a really good surface nice and smooth for material to stick down to in there. All right, so I'm hanging over just a tiny bit here on the bottom, so we're gonna put some heat on that and then wrap that edge. But let's go ahead and heat seal this whole headlight, and then this will be ready to go home. So I'm using my pinky to make sure that I'm getting all the way back in there. You could also just like run like the tip of your finger and your fingernail back in that very corner. I say corner because it goes in and rounds up like we were saying earlier. Oop, getting a little hot there. My glove stopped sliding really well. Okay, and then we get across all the way down. Just make sure you're being very methodical about your heat sealing. You don't want to miss an edge. Okay, and then we need to get that recess that we trimmed, and then we want to get where these two pieces of material come together really well. Okay. Oop, got a little warm there. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just that you want to get the heat away if you start to feel your glove isn't sliding, start to get a little tacky. Okay, now back in there, I can't really get my finger in there, so we need a different tool for that. There it is. And we'll tuck this way in there and get this area to stay stuck down. Okay. Terrific. All right, great. Well, that's the process of installing paint protection film on this Forester headlight. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and like and subscribe. We'll see you next time around. No. We'll see you on the next one.